Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hash It Out Show. I am your host, Jared JB Boyd, the one they call JB, your sports guy. Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined by my good friend that you can catch on CrescentCitySports.com, Mr. VK Jones. VK, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, people? How are you? We appreciate you joining us. Like Ted Shag, tag, and I'm sorry, like tag
Hair.
share this broadcast. We're live right now, Facebook Live. We're live on YouTube. We appreciate everybody joining us this evening. We got two big guests, man. We're excited, and this is our only show for this week. So everybody tune in, get your comments in. It's a good interactive sports show.
Also, my other co-host, you can catch him on CrescentCitySports.com. Also, the one, the only George Peppers. What's up, George
What's
Peppers?
up, Jared Boyd? I'm doing fine and looking forward to the show. It's an exciting time. Some people say that sports is going to start to slow down a little bit. Nah, not on Hash It Out. We rock and roll all the way.
That is correct. Joining us once again, this guy here won a national championship as the head coach of the LSU Tigers baseball team. The one, the only, Coach Paul Manieri. Coach, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Hello, guys. How's it going? Good to be with you.
Going
Thank
good,
you.
Coach. Thank you
Appreciate it,
for
Coach.
joining us. Coach, LSU won their regional, defeated Tulane, defeated Oregon State 6-5, then beat them again 13-7. What were some of the most important factors that you saw from this LSU baseball team in the regionals?
I thought they showed really well in every facet. I'll tell you, it would have been a heck of an upset if they didn't win that regional because I wasn't all that impressed with all of the teams that were in there with them, to be honest with you. I mean, LSU was head and shoulders above everybody there. Tulane, I can't remember a team having 40 losses in the NCAA going into the NCAA tournament, but they were playing well at the end. They won their conference tournament, but even still, 40 losses is a lot. But Jay decided to go with Skeens in the opening game. I think he was worried about Tulane and the way they'd been playing so well. A lot of people criticized him for that, but it turned out to be a good move. It got him off to a good start. The second day, then they played Oregon State. And we've had some history with Oregon State. We've had some great ball games all the way back to 2012 that Oregon State came here for a regional. Kevin Gosman beat him pretty handily in the winner's bracket game, but we had to edge him out in extra innings to win the regional championship that year. And then, of course, we played them out in 2017 in Omaha, and they were 56-4, and we beat them 2 days in a row. And those were big wins. Unfortunately, we didn't finish the job by beating Florida in the finals, but two great wins. But then the next year we went out to Oregon State, and they had everybody back, and we had lost everybody, and we lost to them twice out there. So I was expecting great ball games with Oregon State, but Oregon State really didn't match up with LSU. They didn't have the arms. They just didn't have the overall firepower. So LSU handled them, and then we didn't play Sam Houston, but Sam Houston, I had seen them play earlier in the year. I didn't think that they were a threat either. So really LSU did what they had to do. They pitched well. They hit a bunch of home runs against some pretty average pitching. And, hey, you get those 3 wins, and now you're 2 wins away from Omaha. I used to tell the guys when the NCAA tournament started, boys, we're 5 wins from Omaha. So, you really haven't won anything when you win a regional. There's no trophy being given. There's, nothing, no skin to put up on the wall. You know what I mean? You got to win the next 2 to get to Omaha. And so now the stage is set with another SEC school. Kentucky's coming in. And I watched Kentucky a little bit on television this weekend, and they were kind of hot and cold, but they're capable. They've got some good arms like all SEC schools do. They got some guys that can hit, and now they're riding a little bit of a confidence wave. They had lost the winner's bracket game, but came back to beat Indiana twice at the end. So I think LSU will have their hands full this weekend, but clearly LSU's the better team, so I would expect they'd handle them and get to Omaha.
You talked about Kentucky just now, and it's a rematch from earlier in the year when LSU took 2 out of 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
How can LSU win this game by not thinking of what happened early in the season? Because sometimes people think we already beat them, we'll beat them again, but
Yeah.
different things happen. How can LSU keep their head straight?
Yeah, I remember back in 2017, we went to Mississippi State the last weekend of the season, and whoever won that series was going to win the SEC West. And we won the first two games, so we clinched the SEC West. Well, then because other things had happened around the league, it turned out that if we won the third game as well, we'd win the overall SEC title. And LSU had never swept Mississippi State in Starkville at that point, and we beat them the final game as well. So we swept these guys 3 times, traditionally a really tough opponent. And, you felt very relieved. You got a couple of skins on the wall, the SEC West, you got the SEC title. Lo and behold, don't you know, they get sent to the Southern Miss Regional. They beat Southern Miss, and they're matched up with us. Now we got to play Mississippi State again in the Super Regional. And I'm like, man, I can't believe we just swept these guys 3 times on the road. And now we got to play them at home, and we got to beat them twice before they beat us twice. Somehow that didn't seem fair, But, we went out there and we struggled the first day. We faced a really good pitcher. We were down 3-0. We came back and scored 4 in the bottom of the 8th and closed them out. And then we blew them out the next day. But I think the key is you got to put the past in the past. The regular season is a 56-game grind, 30 games in the SEC. And all that effort during the regular season is simply to put yourself in a position in the postseason to host regionals, host super regionals, and give yourself a shot to get to Omaha. But you got to turn the page, because what you did in the regular season doesn't mean anything anymore. Everybody's 0-0 starting the postseason. So regardless of what happened between LSU and Kentucky earlier this year, these games are for the marbles, man. If you can't get fired up to go out there and play when you got 2 wins to go to Omaha, then something's wrong with you. Your perspective is not good. The one good thing about baseball, it's different than like football. Like, remember when LSU beat Alabama 9-6, and then they had to play them in the Dome for the championship. That's an unusual situation in college football. But in baseball, you play so many games that you're conditioned. I used to call it the midnight rule. When you won a game, you got to celebrate the victory until midnight. When you lost the game, you got to dwell on it and analyze it until midnight. But what happens at midnight? The world turns over, right? It's a new day. Right. And you just get conditioned that every day is a new day, and what you did yesterday doesn't mean anything, or what you did 2 months ago doesn't mean anything. Baseball players have to have that mindset that every day is a new day, and you start from scratch again at 0-0 on the scoreboard. So if you've conditioned your team the right way, regardless of who the opponent is, you're going to be ready to play. And you play the first game on Saturday. When that game's over, you play the second game on Sunday. If you won the first 2, then you're going to Omaha. If you split the first 2, then you got to play again the following day. So I don't think it's hard to get baseball players ready to play on games like this. And what happened earlier in the year, against Kentucky, whether they won 2, whether they lost 2, whether they swept them, whether they got swept, you throw it all out the window at this point.
Before I pass on to VK, there are 6 SEC teams playing in the Super Regionals, the most out of any conference. What are your thoughts about that, and what does that say about the SEC?
Well, think about this, okay? There are 6, but that doesn't include Vanderbilt. It doesn't include Arkansas. It doesn't include Auburn, who hosted a regional. And it doesn't include Texas A&M, who was in the winner's bracket out at Stanford, had to beat Stanford one more time and couldn't do it. Stanford beat them twice at the end of the tournament. So it could have been more than 6. But I think it does illustrate just how dominating a conference we have in the SEC. I watched Oregon State play, and the West Coast was, they were the pioneers of college baseball out on the West Coast. Southern Cal won 10 or 11 national championships. You got UCLA, you got Arizona State, you got all these great programs. Oregon State's won 3 national championships. But yet when I watched Oregon State play LSU, it was like, to be honest with you, it felt like a college team against a high school team. It felt like a major league team against a junior college team. The athletes were so much better at LSU. They were bigger, stronger, faster. The pitchers threw a lot harder. It was the men playing against the youngsters. So a lot of the good players from the West Coast, they want to come to the South. They want to come to the SEC. This is where the biggest crowds are. It's where the best stadiums are. It's where the people care about college baseball in a way that they can't fathom out West. And so, you're seeing the baseball on the West Coast kind of taking a downward turn, in my opinion. I watched that Oregon State LSU game, the first game, and Ty Floyd's out there throwing 97 miles an hour, and their pitcher can't touch 90 miles an hour. And he really didn't have a great curveball or great command either. I don't think he'd have made the LSU team, quite frankly, much less pitch at a pivotal game. So the SEC is where the best players are. And, they're hardened because of the schedule they play all year, playing tough teams. And, anything can happen on a given day in our sport, but clearly the SEC is the very best conference in the country. The ACC would have an argument, I think, and they've got 3 teams, I think, in this that Duke and Virginia will be playing each other, so only one of them will survive. And then, of course, Wake Forest right now is the number 1 team in the country. They've just have that magical season going where they have veteran guys and just it's all kind of come together. Happens once in a blue moon for a school like that. But every year, the schools in the SEC are going to be right there fighting for the national championship. So with 6 teams, of course, Kentucky's playing LSU, so only one will survive there. So you're not going to have 6 teams in Omaha. And if I'm not mistaken, is there another SEC versus SEC matchup?
Yes.
Who's the other one?
Florida, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. Florida and South Carolina. So the most teams you're going to have in Omaha is 4, but I very much expect there to be 4 out there.
Well, Coach, got to ask you this about LSU, and I was out there this weekend for the regional, and then good thing we got in contact with each other.
Mhm.
I was out there Friday, and I was out there Sunday, and what I noticed more than anything else, and I asked that to Jay Johnson in the press conference, that we noticed more of a nostalgia than anything else, especially on Sunday, that we seen 5 home runs from the LSU Tigers. Then also last 2 out of the 3 games of the regional, 9 home runs by the Tigers. To me, and I didn't say the G word, the old gorilla ball back in the day, but I mentioned in the 1990s of when Skip Bertman and his squad used to hit timely home runs at the time, and it helped them get through the NCAA regionals and stuff and everything. And Coach Jay Johnson complimented me on that question and everything. What are your thoughts, Coach, on LSU's performance offensively, especially with them with timely hitting and those home runs? Do you think that's a big lift helping the Tigers right now?
Well, not only did, first of all, when Skip first won his national championships, the first couple, there was no such thing as gorilla ball. Skip did it with pitching, defense, stole a lot of bases. But then the game changed. The bats became more lively, and Skip adjusted, and they were able to hit a bunch of home runs and overpower teams to the national championship. The year we won the national championship with me as the coach, we hit 120 home runs that year as well. I think we hit 12 home runs in the games we played in Omaha that year. So that was a lot of home runs. In 2013, when we went back with the number 1 team in the country, we were 57-9 when we went to Omaha. And it was the first time we played in the new ballpark. And what a difference it was from old Rosenblatt Stadium going to the new ballpark. The field was situated in a way it was opposite of Rosenblatt. At Rosenblatt, the home plate was in the south. And so when you got the southerly breezes, the wind was blowing out, and the field sat up on a hill, so you kind of magnified the effect of the wind. When we went to the new stadium in 2013, the entire tournament, remember now, we hit 12, LSU hit 12 in 2009 in the tournament. You know how many total home runs were hit in the entire tournament by all teams? 3.
Wow.
3 home runs in the entire tournament. So it became very apparent to me that you just can't wallop home runs to a national championship when you get to Omaha. So this is the dilemma is, when you're playing at the box, not that the box is an easy park to hit home runs. In fact, I think it's one of the more challenging parks in the Southeastern Conference. But it's hard to go to Omaha and just, hit 4, 5, 6 home runs in a ball game. In Skip's day and in the year we won in 2009 in the old stadium, you could do that. But I don't think you can do that in this ballpark in Omaha. So what you need to win out there, you're going to hit an occasional home run, but I'd be shocked if I saw a team hit 4 or 5 home runs at that ballpark unless for some reason the wind shifted or whatever. But you're going to face better pitching. When the regional wore on and LSU stayed in the winner's bracket, and now by the time you're playing Oregon State, their pitching staff's pretty depleted. So they're going to be throwing some junk ball guys out there that are throwing 85, 87 miles an hour. You're not going to face that in Omaha. You're going to face Wake Forest. You're going to face, Tennessee. You're going to face teams that have good arms. So it's going to be hard to just guerrilla ball your way to victory out there. So the key, I think, for LSU is, first we got to get through Kentucky, of course, and it's in the box and there might be home runs hit. I don't know if there'll be as many hit because Kentucky will bring a better pitching staff here than these teams did this past weekend. But if we're lucky enough to get through Kentucky and get to Omaha, I think you got to play really good defense out there. You got to pitch great. Obviously, Skeens is the dude. He's the best guy in the country. Yep. He can beat anybody. But the other guys are going to have to pitch well, throw the ball over the plate, and we're going to have to play good defense, and we're going to have to get clutch singles, clutch doubles, and not just rely on home runs. There was one point, I think, in the first Oregon State game where I think we had hit 4 home runs, but we only had 6 hits total. So remember, when you hit a home run, you're driving in the runner that's standing in the batter's box yourself, okay? What you need to do is drive in those runners that are standing out there at second and third base or a runner at first base with extra base hits, so, doubles in the gap and that type of thing. I think LSU is very capable of playing that kind of game. But, I'm happy they hit a bunch of home runs this weekend, and I hope they hit a bunch of home runs this coming weekend. But I don't think when we get to Omaha that we're going to be able to just, plan on jacking a bunch of home runs and blowing teams out.
Absolutely. And if anybody's watching right now, now remember when LSU won their last national championship, it was the last year of Rosenblatt Stadium, the original one, yep, before they went into the new stadium.
That's right.
Now, here's the other thing you mentioned pitching. I've seen Skeens on Friday, seen him on regular games, but seeing him in person,
yeah,
he's unbelievable.
Special.
He's that dude.
Yeah, it's special.
Now, what are your thoughts on the rest of the staff, especially how they stepped up this weekend, especially Thatcher Hurd?
Yeah.
The game he had was amazing, and not too many pitchers used in the bullpen. That sounds like a good sign for LSU, right, Coach?
Well, Hurd is certainly starting to fulfill his potential. That curveball he was throwing the other day was virtually unhittable. And when he was coming out of high school in California, he ended up going to UCLA out of high school, but he was an extremely highly touted pro prospect. And then he had a back injury, I believe, and he just really never fulfilled his potential out there. So a change of scenery, he felt, would do him good. And he's had some struggles this year. There's no denying that. But I think the kid's coming into his own now. He's pitching with an awful lot of confidence. I tell you, he's got a great curveball. He really does. And I think Ty Floyd has always been capable of pitching well, and he's been pitching well. I know LSU's pitching at times has not been very consistent this year, especially out of the bullpen. But if you look up there at the scoreboard and look at the radar gun readings, they got 10 or 12 guys that are throwing 93 miles an hour and harder. Not many schools can have that claim. I told you Oregon State, I think they might have had 1 or 2 guys that even touched 90 miles an hour. And we got a dozen guys that can throw 93 or more. So really the ability is there. It's just a matter of doing it and producing. when the lights are shining and, it's a big game and you got to make the big pitch, you got to be able to throw the ball over the plate besides having velocity and a good breaking ball. But I think they're getting better, and I think they're doing it at the right time. And I think our pitching staff's going to be fantastic.
I'm gonna ask you this two-part question, then I'm gonna let George Peppers take over with the questions. For one, looking at the rest of these super regionals here, what are your thoughts on a couple of these two seeds battling and looking at their destinations? Surprisingly, Oral Roberts has a better record than Oregon, but they have to travel to Oregon. You have TCU who upset Arkansas, but Indiana was a 14 seed hosting, but they have to travel to TCU.
Yeah.
And Tennessee has to go to Southern Miss. Tell us a little bit of your thoughts on how they kind of seeded this thing, why it happened that way, and also the other question is, which one of these super regionals are going to be a very good and tough series?
Well, the last 16 teams standing deserve to be there. I mean, you got to do it out there on the field. We all thought Arkansas and Vanderbilt were going to be two of the best teams in the country. They didn't get it done. The reality is that, and TCU walloped Arkansas in the winners bracket game. It was no fluke. The second baseman for TCU, Richardson, hit 3 home runs and drove in 11 runs in one game. Then in the next game, hit another home run. I mean, this kid's playing great. TCU is a very hot, confident team right now. Who'd you say they were playing? Was it Oral Roberts?
Oral Roberts playing Oregon.
You can't. Who's playing? Who's playing TCU?
It's let me see. It is Indiana State. In Indiana State.
Yeah. So Indiana State got a bad break because they have the Special Olympics are happening in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Wow.
So they could not host the Super Regional, and there's no hotels within 100 miles or something available. So they had to go play at TCU, and TCU that's a really difficult place to play. For years, Jim Schlossnagle was the coach there, and I think there was one point TCU went to 4 straight College World Series under Schlossnagle. We played them in one World Series out there in Omaha, and they beat us twice. They were really a tough team, and they're really hot right now. So that they're going to be, I would imagine that they're going to handle Oral Roberts, although Oral Roberts, especially their number one starter, is really outstanding. Anything can happen on a given day. But the side of the bracket that LSU would be in Omaha, of course, one of the 4 super regionals is LSU and Kentucky. We know about that. But Texas and Stanford is going to be a really great battle out at Stanford. But then you've got Tennessee and Southern Miss. Now, I know Southern Miss got a break getting to host that regional. If you got to go to Knoxville in a super regional, I mean, I found out about that in my last, weekend of my coaching career. That place is really difficult. The fans are right on top of you. They're loud. It makes for a very challenging environment. Southern Miss, though, they have great support there. And their coach is in his last season. He's already announced his retirement. So that old, let's win one for the Gipper type of thing, might evolve there. But Tennessee has great arms this year, even more so than the last couple of years when everybody thought they were the greatest team ever and didn't make it to Omaha last year when Notre Dame beat them. This year, their pitching is really good. They got some good arms. So that's going to be a dogfight there, that Southern Miss Tennessee. As they say, too close to call, okay? But the other super regional, it's slipping my mind now. What's the first one up at the very top of the bracket?
It's Alabama and Wake Forest.
So Alabama, of course, everybody knows the story there. The coach got fired. The assistant coach has been taken, and they've been playing great. But Wake Forest is pretty much considered the very best team in the country right now. They've got it all, and they're playing at home. And you're talking about playing in a very small ballpark. They've got an unbelievably small home run hitters park, and they've taken full advantage of that. But amazingly, their pitching has one of the lowest earned run averages in the country, even pitching in that ballpark. So when they get to Omaha, I think they're going to have a chance because their pitching is so dominant. I don't know if they'll hit a bunch of home runs, just like I mentioned. I don't think LSU will hit a bunch of home runs in Omaha because of the ballpark and the quality of the pitching that you'll face. But I think that side of the bracket, let's imagine if Wake Forest won, TCU won, Texas or Stanford, flip a coin there, and LSU. I mean, those are 4 pretty good teams. Well, only one's going to come out of that side of the bracket. You look at the other side of the bracket, just on paper, you would say, you got Virginia, who's had a great season. They were national seed, but they don't have dominating pitching. They've got a really good, scrappy offensive team, gutty pitchers, but not overpowering. They're playing Duke. I mean, one of those teams is going to come out of there and go to Omaha, scrappy, but not overly talented. You're going to have Oregon and Oral Roberts playing each other. One of those 2 teams is going to be on that bracket. Oregon, we're familiar with them. My last year, we won the regional in Eugene. It's not a terribly hostile environment out there. It's, they're all drinking wine and enjoying themselves, out there. But that one could be either team. And, I don't think it's one of the top, couple of teams in the country. The other 2 super regionals, if you're looking at the brackets, tell me who the other 2 supers are on that side.
Right quick, that is you got we mentioned TCU. I'm sorry, Duke, Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida.
Okay, so South Carolina, Florida. I mean, South Carolina has kind of righted the ship. They were great early, and then they had a couple bad weeks. Florida's been good all year, and they went into the losers bracket just like Arkansas and Vanderbilt did, but they fought their way out and had to win 3 straight games in their regional, and they did it. So Florida is always a team that's going to be counted on. Whoever comes out of that super regional, I think, will be the best team on that side of the bracket. And what was the other 4th regional over the super regional on that side?
We mentioned it was South Carolina, Florida, Duke, and Virginia in the ACC.
Oral Roberts and
Oral Roberts, Oregon,
and
also TCU and Indiana State.
Not TCU. Was it? Oh, it was TCU. I thought TCU's in the other bracket with LSU.
No, the one side where LSU is, you have Wake Forest, Alabama, Stanford, Texas, LSU, Kentucky, and LSU Kentucky winner will play the Tennessee Southern.
Oh, Tennessee. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So, personally, I think LSU will be in the tougher bracket in Omaha. Not that the teams on the other bracket are going to be pushovers. Nobody is in Omaha, but it should be good baseball this weekend. Anything can happen. There's usually an upset or 2. But LSU, I think LSU will be much more challenged this weekend than they were this past weekend. Just the fact that you've got an SEC school coming in, Kentucky, I think the athletes will be much better. The arms will be much better. So it'll be a typical SEC weekend between 2 heavyweights.
Go ahead, George.
George Peppers, go ahead with your questions.
Yes, sir. Coach, first of all, thank you for joining us and taking the time to join us on Hash It Out. My first question is about the format. I mean, it's now at best 2 of 3 in the Super Regional, but LSU doesn't play till Saturday. Was there a preference when you were coaching to play Friday or Saturday? Regionals, obviously going to start Friday, but some teams play Saturday. Yeah. LSU this time goes Saturday to Monday.
Yeah, I always preferred to play the Friday through Sunday simply because the Friday through Sunday series begins on the first day out in Omaha. And if you play the first day in Omaha, you have a little bit of an advantage in the sense that you can bring back a starting pitcher earlier in the tournament. And if you end up winning your bracket, it may mean the difference between your pitcher having an extra day rest going into the finals versus a team that starts the second day in Omaha. It used to be the first games were Saturday and the second games were the other brackets start on Sunday. But I think now it's going to be Friday and Saturday. I think they've contracted the tournament a little bit more. But I always like to get out there on the field as quickly as we could in Omaha the nerves are going to be there for all the players. So I just like to get on the field as quick as possible. For that reason, I like to play the Friday through Sunday super regional, assuming that you would win it. But outside of that reason, I don't think it really matters. I see
Gotcha.
we're going to be playing at 2:00. Hopefully we can beat the rain. The rain just always seems to be such an issue in regionals and super regionals in Louisiana. So, it affected the games this past weekend, and we had a couple of super regionals where the rain was really a problem. So hopefully playing earlier in the day, as much as we like to play the night games at LSU, and let our fan base kind of get warmed up all day, if you know what I'm saying, getting ready for
Of
the
course.
game. They got loud and fun, but you want to get the games in, and you don't want to sit around waiting during rain delays and so forth.
You broke down the super regionals, but let's flash back to the regionals. And you mentioned Vanderbilt and Arkansas getting upset over the weekend in their respective regionals. Was that the most surprising results to you, or is there another regional that surprised you of somebody getting out?
When I think back to them, I think 9 number 1 seeds lost one of their first 2 games of the regionals. Now, some of them fought back and were able to still end up winning their regionals. Stanford did, Florida did. There might have been somebody else, but I thought Arkansas and Vanderbilt by far were the biggest upsets. I mean, you were talking about like the number 2 team in the country, Arkansas. I think Vanderbilt was like number 4. They had won the SEC tournament. The upsets don't get any bigger than that. That's for sure. But I was also surprised. I was honestly surprised that Auburn went 2-0 at hosting a regional. They were playing well at the end of the year. There was a lot of controversy about them hosting a regional in the first place. So they certainly didn't make the committee look good by going 2-0 when they were hosting a regional. And I was a little surprised that Miami got beat at home by Texas. But, Texas can, they've got as good of players as anybody, and they can rise up. But, I'm never totally surprised by any upsets in baseball because it can happen anytime, really.
And piggybacking off of your last statement, looking into the super regionals, you've got teams like Indiana State, Oral Roberts. Says a little bit about the smaller schools, the schools that are not in populous. They don't recruit the same type of player that an LSU or Florida recruits, but they win. And looking at those teams into a super regional with chances to win, it's got to be saying a lot about college baseball and the parity in college baseball.
Well, it's been that way for a lot of years as far as some teams just, they kind of catch fire in a bottle, and they get older players that have matured, and, they don't lose the players to the draft like, a SEC school would. We can go down the list and look at the teams that have made it to Omaha through the years. Upsets. I mean, it happens. It happens a lot. And I think that's something that makes college baseball very unique. You don't see these kind of upsets very, very often in basketball, for example. Occasionally it'll happen. Valparaiso will beat whoever, at the, Bryce, what was his name? Drew Bryce Bryce Drew when he hit the shot on the buzzer. You're going to see that occasionally,
right,
but not very often. Normally the athletes will win out in a sport where athleticism matters so much, like in basketball or football. You don't see big time upsets happen very often, but baseball's different. If they've got that one great pitcher, like I watched Xavier beat Vanderbilt and eliminate them. And at this Xavier pitcher pitching in the 9th inning was 6'4" left-hander with a whipping arm action, throwing 94 with a wipeout slider. I mean, it looked like Randy Johnson or Chris Sale or somebody like that. At Xavier University, beating the great Vanderbilt Commodores. I mean, who would guess something like that? It happens. So I think it's one of the intriguing things about college baseball. You can't take anybody lightly. It's not the name on the shirt. It's the bodies that are in that shirt that matter. And those kids, especially when you get to super regionals, think about this. Everybody that's playing this coming weekend, all 16 teams, just won a tough regional. So they're all playing with a lot of confidence. And when they're playing with a lot of confidence, man, you know, you got your hands full. I hate to bring up this, but in 2012, you know, we had zipped through our regional, and down in Miami, there was this school nobody had ever heard of, Stony Brook. But they beat Miami, they beat Central Florida. I mean, I watched those games and I said to myself, man, these guys are good.
Yeah.
And they ended up having 7 players drafted in the first 4 rounds, and they had just beaten Miami Hurricanes, Central Florida, all these good teams. And I said, man, we're gonna have our hands full with these guys. And sure enough, they were totally not intimidated about being in the box. We beat them the first game. We were lucky to win, fortunate to win, not lucky. We had home runs in the 9th, 10th, and 11th innings to tie the game, and then won it in the 12th inning. The next day we had a bad break when Kevin Gosman was pitching. It was pouring rain. They wouldn't stop the game. Gosman couldn't grip a different pitch. He gave up 3 runs in 1 inning because all he could throw was fastballs, and we lose the game 3-1. You know, and then the next night, for all the marbles, you know, they just hammered our pitcher, and their pitcher pitched great against us, and they just beat us fair and square. So, you know, everybody around Baton Rouge and Louisiana were shocked, but this is what happens in baseball. You can have a team that has some name that you don't even recognize, but they got a really good pitcher, and they got good players, and you might hit some balls hard right at people, and you know, the baseball gods just aren't smiling down on you that particular day. And then that's what happens. We've all been
And
there.
that's why baseball has the
We've
great.
all been there. Anybody that's ever coached or played the game
Yep.
has been on those side of those games. And it's hard to explain it, although I tried to, but it happens.
Surely. And that's why baseball provides the greatest theater of any sport.
And then it sticks in your side for the rest of your life.
It's
like in your side.
I feel like that Stony Brook series is sticking to you the way you're answering that, because I remember that series vividly, and I thought, who are these guys? You know, it's like, man, they come to Baton Rouge and knock off big bad LSU in their house, and they drew an impression on me. And look, I get it, you know, but let's play a little. I'm sorry.
That's the way most people reacted to it. But like I said, in a sense, they were better than us. You know, they had 7 players drafted in the first 4 rounds. Their center fielders still playing in the major leagues all these years later. So, you know, it happened. I always, it is sticking in my side, but it's not because I didn't have respect for their team. You know, it just sticks in your side when you one win away from going to Omaha and you don't win that last game. I don't care if it was the New York Yankees we were playing, it would still be sticking in my side.
Exactly.
But I did think that someday they would bury me, and on my tombstone it would say, "Here lies the guy that couldn't beat Stony Brook in the Super Regional."
I don't think that would be said about you, Coach. You did an outstanding job at LSU. You kept the tradition right, and all the great things you did there.
Coach, I think you should feel better. I think you'll feel better with you at least losing to a national champion, and that was Coastal Carolina.
Well, that didn't make me feel any better, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, Coastal Carolina, you know, was the same kind of thing, you know, but, you know, it's amazing as a coach, as players, but especially as coaches, you know, because we have longer careers. You know, the player is there for 3-4 years, and then they go on to play pro ball, and you know, they get past it. But when it's your livelihood and the whole city, the whole state is counting on you, the losses just seem to hurt more than the wins were great. You know what I mean? They stay with you. But I guarantee, I was talking to Kim Mulkey about this the other day, and either she or I made this point, but I had thought about this. You know, if you asked Nick Saban today, if he was on this show with you, and you asked him to talk about the 7 national championship games that he won, I guarantee you he'd tell you that the 3 championship games that he lost stay with him more than the 7 ones that he won.
Without a doubt.
And that's the nature of what we do, you know. What drives you to be successful is also what makes it very difficult for you to get over disappointments. They stay with you. You know, you remember them. You think, man, if I'd have done one thing a little different, would have made a difference, you know. But you can't go back and play the games. that it's history, that it's in the books. You can't do it. But at the same time, when you're by yourself and you're thinking about your career, you always feel like you could have done more, and it makes me kind of sad that I feel that way even about myself, because we had so many wonderful experiences and have so much success, through the years. But man, it would have been different if we'd have won one more championship. My son, one day I
What
said
if,
that to him, and he said to me, "Dad, if you'd have won one more championship, you'd be sitting here complaining that you didn't win a third championship. And if you won three, you'd be complaining you didn't win four." So that's how we're made. It's how the DNA and the wires are done for coaches that, compete pretty successfully for their careers.
my last question, Coach, before I turn it over to Jared. What do you miss the most about the coaching at especially at LSU, considering the atmosphere, the support, and everything else? What is it the most that you miss about coaching at LSU?
I really miss most everything. There's some things I don't miss. I don't miss dealing with the weather during regionals and super regionals. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't miss worrying about the draft and who you're going to lose and those type of things. There's several things that I don't miss about it, but the majority of the stuff I just miss. I miss working with the players every day. I miss molding a team into something that, people would be proud of. I miss, obviously, the excitement of the big games, especially in the postseason. I miss winning championships. I don't miss the heartbreaking losses, though, I got to tell you. And I want you to think about this, okay? There's 300 Division I playing baseball teams, okay? Right now, there's 16 teams that are dreaming of getting to Omaha. And then when they get to Omaha, they dream of winning their bracket to make it to the finals. And then they get to the finals, they dream of winning the national championship. But there's only going to be one team out of those 16, out of those 300, that are going to hold the trophy up at the end. And everybody else is going to be pissed. Everybody else is going to be sad. So every year you go into the season and you know that unless you win the last game of the season in Omaha, you're going to be really disappointed, because you lost not one, but two games the last weekend of the season, or the last tournament of the season. And so in a sense, people only remember how the season ended and not the journey to get to that point. And that's kind of sad, because the journey had a lot of special moments in it to get you to that point. But it all goes out the window when you're so close to the championship that you can taste it and you don't finish the job. And it's how coaches, everybody think that's all they remember from the season is the very end. They don't remember the great come from behind victory in game 38 during the regular season. They only think about how it ends. Like take the LSU football team back in 2000 and was it 10 or what season was it when we were undefeated when we played Alabama in the Superdome?
Yes.
We had 10, was it?
11.
11, okay.
2011.
We had beaten 10 ranked teams that year. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We beat 10 ranked teams. But because we didn't beat Alabama in the final game, everybody thought there's another opportunity lost. In baseball in 2017, we beat an Oregon State team that was 56-4.
Right.
And we beat them 2 days in a row. We gave them 2 of their 6 losses in the year on 2 consecutive days. But because we didn't beat Florida twice in the finals, people virtually don't even remember that. It's kind of sad when you think about it, but it's the nature of sports. And when you compete at the highest level, whether it's in the NBA, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's in Major League Baseball, whether it's SEC baseball or college baseball in general, that you're trying to win a national championship, that's just the nature of it.
Coach Manieri, we will get you out of here with this one last question. Who wins the Super Regional, LSU or Kentucky?
Well, I wish I had some more to do with affecting the outcome. I just sit back and watch, But you realize that 8 of the 9 starting players are players that I recruited.
Yes.
And they played, most of them played for me. A couple of them are freshmen. And several pitchers as well. So I think I know the players pretty well. And, now most of them are either juniors. They've had 3. I had them for 1 year as freshmen, but now they've had 2 more years of experience in the SEC, and they improved by the natural maturation of it all. I think LSU is ready to, you got Gavin Dugas, who's a 5th-year senior. You got Beloso, 5th-year senior. You got Travinsky, who went through a lot of injuries early in his career, but now he's blossoming. And then, of course, you've got, my boys, Trey Morgan and Dylan Cruz, Jordan Thompson. I mean, with the exception of third baseman, all those kids are kids that I know very well because I recruited them, coached them, helped them come along. But now you see the fruits of your labor. They're now men that are ready to handle every challenge. So I think we're going to whip Kentucky this weekend and go to Omaha. And I think, like I mentioned earlier in our show, the field, the conditions, all those kinds of things. Are we going to make the plays? Are we going to throw enough strikes? All those kinds of things that'll come into play that doesn't necessarily come into play as much, in the regular season because, you can hit home runs. How we handle that will determine whether or not we come home with the big trophy. But I'd be shocked if we don't beat Kentucky this weekend.
Most definitely. Coach Paul Manieri, once again, thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Good to be with you. It's a lot of fun to talk to you guys.
Yes, sir.
Take care, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye-bye.
All right. That is Coach Paul Manieri. And we're going to move right along to our next guest. This guy here helped lead the Newman Greenies to 3 state finals appearances. They won 2 state championship appearances back-to-back years in 2022, 2023. We have the one, the only Canin Jefferson. Canin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Good.
We are good. We are good. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Yes,
my first question, you are going to North Alabama.
Right.
What is it about North Alabama that made you choose that you want to continue your basketball career?
Right. It was just the official visit, mainly when I went up there, me and my family, my parents, the coaches just made it comfortable, like right away, just talking, like everything just felt pretty normal, like easy. The flow was right. Teammates coming up to me. It didn't feel anything fake, you know what I mean? So I'm big on like relationships and stuff like that, and I feel like that would be a strong one. And I just feel like North Alabama's the right fit, just not too far away from home, but far enough to just focus, lock in. And that's the main thing, really. Yes, sir.
Most definitely. Like I said a little while ago, you guys went to 3 state final appearances and it's been 3 consecutive years.
Right.
2021 when y'all lost. Tell us, what did y'all learn by losing in that state championship that made you guys hungrier to get back in 2022?
Right. It was my sophomore year. We lost to Dunham. That team we played, that Dunham team, they were just more. They're an old team. They've been there before, and we were kind of young. We were just new, just getting to the party really, and we had it. I feel like that championship game. I feel like we should be 3 state championships, but we had it. Fourth quarter, we let it slip away. We were up by 6, I think, with 2 minutes left, and the main thing was that game was just conditioning. We like I said, those guys they've been there before. They've been in that atmosphere. They know how bright the lights are, and they were just ready, prepared for the moment. And I feel like we didn't get ahead of ourselves in those last 2 minutes, but we were just kind of drained a little bit, tired, and they were still going. They were older, they were stronger, they were ready, and they came away with it. But leading up to the next 2 years, like right after that year, off season, conditioning was crazy in the off season. Our coach didn't play around with that. He didn't want any problems with that the next year. So the practices were just track practice, really. Just running, just always running, rarely touching the ball in the off season, just making sure we're in shape. So when it comes down to those last stretches, fourth quarter, they're ready. Like my junior year, we were on the other side of the table. We were down my junior year going into the fourth quarter, and we were in shape. We just kept running, kept playing how we were playing, and didn't get tired really, and we came out with the win that year. But yes, sir.
Talk about winning that first championship in 2022.
Man, that feeling was crazy. Just not winning a state championship in a while. That team just it just felt good. Freshman year, semifinals loss to Dunham. Sophomore year, championship loss to Dunham. And then you get there, junior year, we're like, all right, like me being there, like on varsity, I'm like, all right, like we can't lose again. Like we're here now. We know how it feels. Like it's nothing new. Like we got to come out with it. And yeah, just hosting up that trophy at the end of the game, it was a crazy feeling. But yeah, it was wild.
You guys won the following year also, back-to-back state champions. How hard was it knowing that the target was on you guys back,
Right.
defending state champions?
Right. It was definitely. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was hard. It was definitely just a tiny bit more pressure. Just like us being seniors, we won last year. Like everyone's coming. Like we're the favorite. Like everyone's saying, Newman's the top team. They shouldn't be losing any games in the state. We're hearing this every week. Twitter, any social media, like Newman shouldn't lose. And then like you get in that game and it's kind of tight. The team's there for a reason. Calvary was a great team, and they made it to the championship for a reason. So they were coming to compete. But yeah, the pressure was just a little bit higher. Stakes were a little bit higher because we were supposed to win, and like we did, we won. But yeah, that's how it was supposed to go.
You and Chris Lockett were the main two guys on your Newman team.
Right.
What was it like playing with Chris Lockett? Because you two guys could have started on any team probably throughout the whole state.
Right.
But how was it playing with him?
I mean, it was good. I don't know if y'all know, but me and Chris, we've been playing together since we were 8 years old. We played travel basketball team, so it was nothing new. Him coming to Newman. We played on our younger teams, travel, and then we stopped, separated. He went on a travel team in Texas, and I stayed in the city for a little bit, and then we came back, met back with each other freshman year, and it wasn't anything new. We just reconnected and just got straight to it.
Before I go to VK, Randy Livingston is a living legend, especially in the state of Louisiana.
Definitely.
What is it like playing for Randy Livingston?
It's wild. It's a great experience. It's not easy at all. Not easy, especially me playing his position growing up, point guard. The practices were super detailed with me, just everything. I couldn't miss a beat. Like he would stop practice, break down, like I'm supposed to be reading this guy instead of this guy. I'm supposed to be looking for him, or like everything was super lined up with him because he wanted it just like exact. Like everything was supposed to flow his way because he played point guard, and I respect that. And he definitely taught me so much throughout these years of becoming a better point guard, more of a true point guard, and just being a better player overall. But yeah, it was definitely a good outcome being coached by him.
I'm gonna be a good teammate right here. George Peppers, go ahead with the questions. I'm gonna go last with Canin on this one, but George Peppers, go ahead with your
Right.
question.
Now, first of all, Kanan, thank you for joining us and taking the time out out of your schedule to do so. And congratulations on the success that you've obtained already and what you're going to attain going forward. My first question to you: what do you bring to North Alabama for their basketball program? A program that's in a pretty competitive conference in the Atlantic Sun. What are you bringing to that program?
Right. I'm just trying to get out there and just bring leadership. Just I feel like a good team always has a great connection. The teammates always, everything runs smooth, and I'm just trying to bring more of a. They definitely already have a more of a family environment. I noticed that on the visit. Like everyone's close with everyone, and I'm just trying to keep that going smooth. And on the court wise, just bring leadership, just a winning mentality. I just want to win everything, like every game, and just be hungry. Just bring a more of a hungry mindset to each and every player, and just want to win always.
Sure. I mean, I agree. And you know what? I get the feeling, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but we may see you take that team to an NCAA tournament somewhere during your career there.
Right.
Well, again, I digress. I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, a very competitive conference. Um, Jared asked you about Randy Livingston. I kind of stole a little bit of what I wanted to say, but I want to piggyback. What did you learn the most from Randy? And look, I saw Randy Livingston play ball, and I think he's one of the purest players I've ever seen in the state of Louisiana.
Right. Yeah, his high school years, I had to watch him just to see what type of player he was, and he was just that guy. I mean, he was the top player in the country, top player in the state. Like he went through everyone, just like simple. Just he had the whole package, and he just always wanted to pass that down on us and let us see how he was looking at the game and tried us to to vision it like that, like every play, just everything. And he poured his knowledge definitely into us more like than me, more than like the big men, of course, because like I said, I played his position. But yeah, it was nice to be coached by him, and you gotta those are great 4 years, 5 years actually, because he coached me in eighth grade. But yeah, those were just good times for sure.
For those that are not familiar with where you're going, North Alabama, and what kind of an offense do they run, educate us a little bit about what they run.
Right. North Alabama's a fast paced team. They get up and down for sure. And like their offense is more of a like just a flow offense. Like the four man is a guard who could bring it up and just give it to the like anyone could push it up the court. It's just fast paced, get up and down, and heavy on defense. But mainly the guards get downhill, make the right play for if the right play may be scoring. Sometimes the right play may be assist or passing to assist. But yeah, it's really a fast paced team up there in North Alabama.
Besides you mentioned the atmosphere that you talked about, was choice of offense a part of your consideration as well? And is that a favorite offense that you like to play, a fast flowing, up and down the court kind of offense?
Definitely. The offense kind of made it a lot easier with the decision making. Just
Hmm.
with me, I feel like with my game, it's more of a, like I said, like how they are, just get downhill, make the right play, whatever that right play may be, but just kind of make plays. And I'm not, I, I can adjust to any offense, but that's just what I feel comfortable in. And I feel like a slow paced team and walking the ball up, getting into this offense or this formation, it can be okay, but I just feel right and perfect fit for that offense at North Alabama.
And what are your expectations for your? This is my final question before I turn it to VK. But what are your expectations for your freshman year for North Alabama?
My expectation is just to be a great player, just great team player. Whenever I get my opportunity, just go out there and make the best of it. And that's pretty much it. The accolades I feel like will come with that by me playing a great game. So I'm not really gonna sit here and list everything I want, but yeah, just me being a good player and just winning overall. Like when you're winning, you get more recognition, and making the tournament, you get more recognition. So I just want to contribute and help the team out to get to that point.
Well, Canon, we appreciate you being here tonight and everything. And I gotta agree with the both of these guys. Like, we know that Randy Livingston's a legend in himself, not just as a player but a coach. But the ultimate compliment I've heard from you is from an interview he did, but not just that, talking with him personally about you and everything. And he said, Canin Jefferson is probably reminds me so much of me as a player way back, and for him to have as much skills as I do, but I just want him to work more than anything else. But he reminds me so much of me. It looks like that was a big ultimate compliment for you, right?
Right. Yes, sir. I mean, that'll be a big compliment, like him saying that, like I said earlier in the interview, just him being that top player, having that amazing skill set, the top player in the country in his class, for him to say that, it kind of, I mean, feels good a little bit, but I'm still, he had his own career, and a wonderful career, and I'm just trying to have my own wonderful career too as well.
Well, coming to Newman, I know it was a lot for you. We go a little bit way back, and it's amazing where a lot of people from your old elementary school, you're from the West Bank, and said some really good things. I'm like, Candace got real potential as an athlete and everything. And all of a sudden, seeing you in person the first time, I'm like, man, I mean, the talent is there and everything. But at the time when you find out about that history, when you stepped in the uniform of Newman basketball, you know the expectations was going to be that high for you to try to achieve what you can achieve?
No, I definitely did not. When I came to Newman 6th grade, to be honest, I just came from a small, you definitely know, small elementary, middle school, and I just was happy to be at Newman. Just a big campus, just great environment, just bigger classes. My old school had like 12 people in a grade, and going to Newman with like 100, it was just like, man, like it was just a major big step. And I was just there, just playing basketball, having fun my 6th and 7th grade year, and then I get called out of class and from our principal, and he pulls me into his office, and Randy's sitting right there. I'm like I couldn't even say anything. I'm like, "What's up?" That's the guy I've been hearing about. See him on the walls, his jersey hanged up. I'm like, how are you? I was so like stuck. I didn't know really what to say in words, and then they told me he was going to be my coach next year. I'm like, all right, let's get to it. Like let's keep it going. And then that's by him coaching me. I kind of like after every game, someone will come up to me and say, "Do you know how lucky you are to have Randy as a coach? Do you know his history?" So I would get lessons from random people who would just break down after game and just talk to me about how great he was as a player. And just as throughout the years, that would happen every year. And I just learned more about him, learned more about the history, about the wonderful athletes, not even just on the basketball side, just football, baseball, like we had a lot of good athletes come throughout Newman. And Randy was just a significant one. But yeah, I learned the history of Newman starting from 8th grade, to be honest.
And looking at everything that you and your senior class has done over the years, 4 straight trips to the top 28, 3 to the finals, and for y'all back-to-back titles, especially last season, ending a 29-year drought and winning a state championship, the 12th for I think the 12th for Newman's history at that time. It was a great game against Lafayette Christian, and it seemed like you turned it up in the second half. I called the game on NFHS. It seemed like it was something on your mind in that late in that third to that fourth, and you said that, hey, I got to put the team on my back and let's get it. And it seemed like you got it done. What was your thoughts going in the third to the fourth quarter of that game?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I remember the game like it was just like yesterday, first game, first quarter, before the game starts, coach tells me, Randy pulls me aside and one of them says, "Do not get in foul trouble. Like, do not reach. Don't go for any steals. Like, just play solid, straight up." And they were just putting the ball in my face. So I'm like, all right, I mean, I gotta reach. Like, I want the ball. Like, I'm trying to, get the ball for my team. And they called a foul. They called another one. And then Randy, I was in foul trouble at that point. So I sat down the whole second quarter, like whole second quarter. And then at halftime, just like, man, like I'm like, I gotta make something shake second half. Like I gotta come out here, do some, just play how my team expects me to play. Not do anything too much or too low, but just play how I'm expected to play. And I just came out there third quarter, I just felt it, and I just wasn't gonna stop. I just let it fly, made the right shots, made the right plays, and yeah, that fourth quarter, those last 3 minutes, we kind of just like broke the offense at that point. I don't know if you remember, it was just a pick and roll game at that point. It was just me and my teammate Will Randall. It was just me and him for the last 2 minutes, just pick and roll. We're just playing out of that. I'm making the right play. Sometimes it was scoring. I think I had like 3 layups. One of them were and one. One of them was an and one that like kind of took the lead and changed the momentum of the game. And we didn't let up after that. But yeah, that was actually our 10th championship last year, and this year was our 11th. But yeah, that was crazy feeling. But yeah, the mindset at halftime was just go out there and just do what you've been doing all season. Just like play. You missed the opportunity to play the second quarter, so you gotta make up for it at that point. Teams relying on you, and I feel like that's what I accomplished that game.
You won the most outstanding player, and it was a great performance in itself. Next season, tough year. It was a tough. The biggest thing Randy Livingston said, potentially that team maybe might go undefeated. Put a target on the back of your team, but you still had a real good season. You played probably one of the toughest schedules in the state, but regardless of the fact, took some bumps. But you know, Randy Livingston knew late in the season when you guys went on a big time winning streak at the end of the year. Randy Livingston said, "Hey, we got to put all that behind us. Now we got to go after the state." It seemed
Right.
like you guys was focused going forward. Tell us about the run and tell us how it was in the championship, especially against Calvary, and how y'all guys took charge, especially late in the first half, to take control.
Yeah, it started off with the schedule. Randy sat down with me and Locke before the season, broke down the schedule, told us we have the chance to go undefeated, and we felt we did. It didn't happen that way, but I mean, it is what it is now. But yeah, that schedule was it was a nice, smartly built schedule. We went from out of town trips, Dallas. We went to Florida, one of the top tournaments in the country. Then we went to Springfield, Massachusetts. Played Bishop O'Connell, who's always like a top 50 team in the country. We got that one out there. It was just one game, and then we just came back home. So we did a lot of traveling. And right when we get back in the city, we got three of the top teams in the state. We got Madison Prep, first game. Took a tough loss to them off of 2 points. Then we played Scotlandville. Another tough, big loss. They had my guy, Dorian Booker, like 7-footer, and then they throw it to him, and then they're dishing it out to the guards who made every 3-pointer that game. Like, they did not miss, and then in the scouting report, they were missing. So they had it on their mind to come after us, and they did that. So props to them. And then we let one slip away, another one, Liberty. That was just careless mistakes. I don't know, we just weren't as locked in that game as we should have been. But like I said, it is what it is now, and it just built character. Like, all those losses, those tough moments, just built character. It probably just humbled us at that point, just to let us know that, like, we got to stay focused for these next couple weeks, and then we get in the district, and we win that. We send a message to Country Days, like, if we see y'all in the championship, this is how it's gonna be. Like, there's no fun and games. Like, we're trying to send a message, and that's what we did. And going into the state tournament, we're just chopping it away. Like Randy says his phrase, chop wood. Like, every game, just send a message. Don't give anyone hope. Don't give anyone fake momentum, fake energy. Just kill. Just everything. Just kill. And Country Day took a loss. I forgot who they lost to, but that was surprising. And then we just kept going. Like, we weren't planning on playing Country Day. We were just like, if we see y'all, we see y'all. And then we seen Calvary in the championship, and it was the same thing. Just handle business and just come out with the win.
And I knew I forgot who they lost to, but it was a shocking loss for I think it was Central Catholic, I believe.
Maybe.
I think it was Central Catholic, and it shocked. That was probably the biggest shocker of the playoffs, because a lot of people, and I include myself, thought Country Day was going to make it to the top 28, especially with Jordan Trahan and company.
Right.
That was just crazy in itself. But regardless of the fact, looking at your teammates, Lockett, it's been unbelievable. What school is Chris Lockett going to? And also, what is the future of Newman basketball? Because you still got Ty Jones returning. You got a couple of good players in the future. Sebastian Thrower,
Right.
who comes off the bench to sub you in the game, but he's very talented. And it seemed like Newman's got some guns to bear coming back
Yeah,
next
they're
year.
deep. Chris, my guy Chris is going to Boise State. That'll be a great fit for him. I feel like he'll like it out there. It's all hoops out there, really. Just in Boise, just focus in hoops, and I hope he has a great career out there. And yeah, for Newman, I don't know if y'all know, but Randy's son is coming.
Yeah.
RJ Jr. He's coming from
We heard.
Florida. I've actually been working out with them these past 2 weeks, just me and him in the gym. And yeah, they're gonna be deep. You know, they got Todd, who's Todd. His motor's crazy. Just run up and down the floor, 6'8", dunking on anyone, blocking shots. We got Chris Lehman, 6'7", 6'8", whatever you want to call it, stretch the floor, smooth lefty. He'll go dunk on you too. And then we got Chris Anak, who was ineligible last year, came from Riverside. He's 6'9", 6'10". He's been having a great AAU season. You know, and like another footer, 6'10", they contested shots, and then he can stretch the floor too. He has a smooth jumper. He could put it on the ground. And then, yeah, we have a nice bench. We got the Pelicans kids. We got Chris Vincent, Tatum Langdon. They didn't play varsity last year, but those guys are in the gym. You know, those are Pelicans family. They're in the gym 24/7. Those guys are hitting growth spurts. They're filling out. They're becoming great players. Then we got Chris Burden, 6'6". He'll run the floor, contest shots. I can go on and on about all of them. Sebastian Jackson, PJ, who was also ineligible. The roster's gonna be crazy, you know. They're gonna be special. We got RJ Jr., Randy's son, who's also gonna have keys to the gym. So it's just hooping at that point. It's just they're just gonna lock in. All they need to do is just lock in, stay humble, have a great mindset, and don't get offset by, you know, people like to say and like speak down on some of the great teams. Like last year, people were saying that we have too many good players, like we can't, whatever that statement is by some people. They're always like, they have too many good players, they can't figure it out. Like that doesn't really make sense unless you just have a great team, have great chemistry. That's all you need, and
That's right.
They'll come out with the win. But yeah, that team's gonna be special. And then I forgot about Isaiah Grant, who's also a football player, but he'll come in and he's a big body. Felipe, I could go on, but those guys are gonna be ready. Those freshmen last year got thrown in the fire as freshmen, so nothing's gonna be a surprise to them next year. So they're gonna be ready.
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna say this before I ask this last question to you. Like, first of all, you know, I gotta say I'm very proud of what you're doing and everything.
All of us are.
You know, all of us are very proud.
Appreciate it.
But you know, I go way back with him because, you know, rest in peace to my wife. She taught this young man right here,
Mhm.
and she always talked about her, always asked about him, and everything else. And I'm very, very impressed of what he's done on the court and everything else. And not just that, but not just on the court, but off the court. You know, he takes the academics very, very seriously. And I know my wife will be very, very proud of you.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
just big ups to
Thank you.
that. And I want to ask you this last question, and I'm gonna let Jared close it out. What are the future plans? Like, what do you see yourself down the line, especially going to North Alabama? Because I know you're going to still take those academics seriously outside of your basketball game. Where you see yourself about 5 years, 4 or 5 years down the line, you know, maybe after your career, where you see yourself?
Yeah. The goal at North Alabama, you know, from basketball standpoint, first, like the basketball standpoint, just make the tournament. That's get far in that. Not even just make the tournament, make a run. From a non-basketball standpoint, just do great academics. I'm thinking about majoring in sports management, and then yeah, in the next 5 years, to be honest with you, I see myself in the league playing NBA, just sticking with my goal, just keep working to get there. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you right now. That's where I see myself keep working. But yes, sir.
Sound like, you know, league will sound good, but you know what this is kind of you're leaning towards to me a little bit. Sound like you may be a coach in the future.
Yeah, you see it.
I could see it. You could be a coach in the future because you have a good humbleness about yourself, but you love the game. If things don't, you know, we hope you make it the league. We hope you make the
Yeah,
league. But if things don't work out, I could see coaching in the future. So many former players, and you seeing them right now, currently, that are very successful coaching right now,
So
high
many.
school and in college.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I mean, I was on the sideline coach with my brothers. You know, they used to call me Coach C. I was like a little baby. I used to draw players on the whiteboard. I mean, my coach, his name was Coach Pops Ureta. Recipes to him, but he used to have me on the sidelines with a clipboard in my hand, with whistle, just on my brother's team. He's like 24 right now. I just used to blow the whistle in their practices. Always just back coach. But yeah, I've heard that a lot. You aren't the first person to tell me that. But yes, sir. That would sound pretty cool. Be a coach.
Canin Jefferson, we wish you the best and all the success at North Alabama. We will be watching you, and thank you for joining us, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Congrats.
Canin Jefferson, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We saw him play at Newman. He and Chris Lockett were just two of a kind. Two of a kind, two unstoppable players. Both made All-State, outstanding players. He's going to have a good career at North Alabama. He will only get better. And he, like he said, he learned from Randy Livingston playing the same position. And I know Randy was hard on him. I know it. But it was for the best because he got the best out of him.
Very much agreed. Me and George have a question for you. Me and George had a discussion on this earlier off air. Who you think is the better guard, a better player? Canin Jefferson or Cam Johnson?
Well, it's like this. It's like this. I'm going to put it to you in one sentence. If Cam Johnson was 6 feet, he's the best player in the state. That's how I put it to you. Cam's height played a major factor with him not getting the type of offers that he should have gotten. To only get an offer from Loyola, I thought was just ridiculous. And people saw that Cam could play. You know, no matter if he's 5'7", 5'8", whatever, Cam could play basketball, plain and simple. And how Nichols or Southeastern never even offered Cam, to me, is just a tragedy in itself. But he's going on Loyola, and I wish him the best. And
that's true, but here's the positive side of it. I agree with you. I kind of feel a little bit the same way, but here's the bright side to it. The biggest bright side of Cam going to Loyola, and I talked personally with Donald Reyes, the head coach. Cam is gonna be making an impact immediately. Yes. So that's big. And the thing is, those other places like Nichols, he might have made an impact. Maybe Southeastern. I'm gonna definitely say that because there was somebody named Marlinville that came to Southeastern from Helen Cox and killed it out there, and he was only 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", and had hops for days, and actually created the clothing line for the Landry basketball team, if you remember the interview with him.
Oh yeah, yes.
But big ups to Marlinville, man. We might have to have him on the show because that's crazy. But at the same time, I think the good thing for Cam is the fact that he's gonna get his shot, and it's a good thing, especially Loyola men's program. They are a national championship program.
Yes, they are.
And that's really good for him. But you make a great point. If he would have Cam's height, if Cam would have Cannon's height, maybe he would be the best. You know what I'm saying? I like Cam a lot. I give a little edge to Canin because of the fact of the competition he played. And then on top of that, for him to handle his business and lead Newman out of a state championship slump that lasted for over 29 years. That's a long time.
Long time.
And then
short schedule was good too now.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. No disrespect the show. No disrespect. But at the same time, when it came down to clutch, but it was just, too bad for Shaw, it was just the fact you had 2 straight years of bad shooting in a semifinal game. It was just
Yeah.
unfortunate. Very.
GP, you got something to say on this topic?
Okay. If you're talking about who's the better player, I mean, I agree with you in that if Cam had a few inches, you're probably right because the stuff that kid can do on a basketball court is insane. Now, take nothing away from Canin Jefferson. That kid is going to be special
Yes.
at North Alabama. I think the right kind of program, and I mentioned it during the interview. If you look at the Atlantic Sun, it is a conference that has produced teams that have won in the NCAA tournament. Can we forget FGCU when they knocked off Georgetown,
That's right.
Florida Gulf Coast?
Yep.
So this is not a bum conference. I mean, it's mid majors. I get it, and that program runs a high octane offense, as Kanan pointed out. And you know what? He flourishes in those kind of offenses, and it's going to be fun. Look, I mean, you're more than likely going to see those games on ESPN. Plus,
Correct.
you're not going to find the A-Sun on ESPN. Well, they don't have ESPN News anymore.
Yeah, you do.
They
But
do.
They got it.
oh, News. Wait, who was it? Oh, Classic. That's what they got rid of. Classic.
Yeah.
But that's the one they got rid of, which is still a foolish decision. But whatever. That's another story for another year. But it's going to be good to see. And Cam Johnson, let me say this about where he's going. Loyola and VK pointed it out. It's a stable environment there. I mean, Donald Reyes kept things going. Yes, they had a hiccup in the NAIA tournament this year, losing at home. But you know what? That's an anomaly. Loyola is going to be a team that's a contender for years to come with him as a coach. And you got a guy like Cam, who's a great floor general. He's going to do good things there. I wish again. What is he? What is Cam? 5'7",
5'8".
5'8".
Yeah.
Remember this: Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb. Those guys were shorter than Cam, and they had very elongated careers in the NBA.
Yep.
So it's not that he can't get there. He's just got to put that work in, which he will.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna see how things, and who knows? Maybe we could check a Loyola game out. At least that we can actually go see
I'm with it.
playing at the Den.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with it too.
Yeah, I'm with it as well. And I think with going back to Cannon, I'm saying it's and I give him props for choosing North Alabama. I know his recruiting was not that bad. Could have been much, much better because of the fact of the matter is he qualified with his grades, and on top of that, him being a 4-year starter and especially playing in tough competition. I don't here's the factors. You got the transfer portal that's going freaking crazy and is affecting the Division 1 schools and the JCs as well. So you just don't know sometimes if these big schools is going to go after these guys or not. So it's just crazy in itself. That's why they need to have a limit on these transfer portals. So a lot of these good kids can be recruited by bigger programs. I'm surprised a Tulane or Ron Hunter didn't go after Cannon. I'm surprised that a Southeastern didn't go after him.
Surprised they all didn't.
And
McNeese, Southeastern, Nichols.
I'm more surprised
Tech.
Troy. I'm surprised Troy didn't go after him or South Alabama. But North Alabama has got somebody that's going to be really, really good. And then on top of that, the immediately part. When somebody is coming in and recruit you from a small school, you're about to make a big impact early.
That's
So
right.
that's really, really good. And sometimes, and it's good for kids to do that because take the opportunity that's in front of you. Look out for you. So if it's the best situation for you, regardless, even if it's a big school or not, take the opportunity and run. Take the opportunity and run with it. That's just straight up.
All right. Let's get to the last topic in this show. McNeese. No, not McNeese. Wow, I'm on the Mex. Not McNeese. McMain High School got hit with a hammer today. There will be no football and no soccer this season at McMain. All other sports will be suspended from the playoffs. They didn't get into details as of why this has happened to McMain, but in regards to football, the past 2 years, McMain has had to forfeit a total of 9 games due to having ineligible players. So we can only speculate that that is probably why. And I'm going to say this because we don't know. If McMain didn't do anything this last time, let them play. Get rid of the suspension. Let them play. If they did, then shame on McMain, because you've done it, got a slap on the wrist and another slap on the wrist. When you gonna learn that you can't break the rules? If you did it, I'm not trying to accuse McMain, but if you did it again, when you gonna learn that you can't break the rules? There's rules in place. You have to stop. You got caught twice, and now no football at all. You got to feel bad for these seniors who not going to play at all this year. You got to feel bad for every sport. They can't go to a postseason at all. Feel bad for all those seniors. You have to feel bad. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's the school if they were doing illegal stuff by getting all these ineligible players. Go ahead, George. Your thoughts.
George?
Hold on, I'm here.
All right.
Hit the unmute. Trying to hit the unmute, but look, I took a chance to read. I gave myself a minute, and I said I'm going to be very objective and not subjective. There's a very big difference. Once is an accident, twice is a trend. McMain in 2 years has forfeited how many games, Jared? You said 9.
The football team has forfeited 9. Yes.
Right. That's what I mean. The football team. All right. In 2 years' time, they've committed a potential infraction, and obviously the LHSA saw fit to absolutely bludgeon them today. I mean, they absolutely this program is now impotent. It's crippled because how many of those kids now knowing they're not going to see a playoff or whatnot are going to move away from McMain and go somewhere else?
And hopefully can
Ask
play.
yourself that.
Hopefully can play.
What's that? Exactly. And now you're making these kids. It's June, so I guess the LHSA feels it's early enough. Do we know why? Look, y'all. To those listening, we don't know. We can only guess. But the one thing we will never do is assume, because you know what happens when you do that. Break it up. Figure it out. All right. I'm gonna ask you both this question because it seems like schools in the state of Louisiana that have done egregious offenses, a la West Monroe, Calvary Baptist Evangel, teams like schools like that. Mind you, the last two are Christian schools that are supposed to espouse the word of the Lord, but they commit infractions and cheat. Yet their sentences are lighter than McMain, and potentially another massive program could be in this same boat. We know we have a speculation, but we're not going to espouse on it until we get our facts together in that regard. But it is an extremely prominent school in New Orleans. We'll leave it alone at that. Do you think, to the both of you, that the LA, and I don't want to go there, but I feel like the compulsion is it potentially a race thing that they're after? They're slaughtering the black schools, school majority black schools harder than other schools.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a good. That's a very
Real
very
good.
good
That's a good
question.
question.
It's a
Good
very good
question.
question. I
I mean, I said it objectively
Yeah.
and not subjectively because you have, what we do, and I'm thinking from both sides of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
If the violations are legit, and I'm not saying they're not, how is it other schools get lighter sentences, but McMain gets absolutely destroyed today?
well, what I'm saying that's a good point you're making, George. And first of all, before I expound on your answer, first of all, they're mostly new administration right now that is at McMain.
Yeah, Brandon Walters is the new
So
AD,
Brand
and he's in a
new
pothole
new
right
pr-
now.
New principal, new principal, new assistant principal. I found out today
Yeah.
as well. I feel bad not just for the kids, but for that new administration is there. They have come into a trap and a hole,
Yes.
and that's not good. That's not good at all. And I feel sorry for Brandon Walters. He is a very good coach. He's done unbelievable things at West St. John, winning a state championship, being in this, and he's also was an assistant coach at Booker T. Washington. For him getting that opportunity to get back into head coaching, and for him to experience that's tragic in itself. But yeah, I think there's some kind of a race factor because of the fact of the matter is that you know that these urban schools are getting more of the punishment and brunk than these other schools. I don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? And to me, if you're a repeat offender, okay, I get it. If you have a record, okay. But right now, this to me, and I never seen anything like this before. This is AKA to me the death penalty of the LHSAA. This is definitely the death penalty. Like SMU back in college football, this is the death penalty here for McMahon. You can't field a team. Period. Soccer team, you can't field a team. The rest of your sports, you're not eligible for playoffs. You can play your season, but you can't. And I feel bad for Stephen Kelly after what he built with that basketball program. And last season, he had a whole brand new coaching staff and everything else, and coming into a higher classification and everything. Now it's almost like you got to really start all over again. It's unbelievable, and and I gotta agree with a little bit with George. But here's another thing I'm gonna say as well. Somebody snitching. Somebody snitching. Real talk. And it could come from some of the public schools, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of them privates and then and maybe predominantly Caucasian public schools. They ratting. Somebody's opening their mouth and saying, "Oh, somebody's in me. Wait, this kid's here, but he don't live in this area. This kid's here. They need to check this out. And this kid's here." Instead of minding their damn business. Worry about what your school is doing. Why are you worrying about everybody else? There's a reason why some of your programs ain't doing jack. Because you worry about the wrong thing instead of going do what you got to do to get your program up and winning. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And that's what the problem is. Somebody is snitching. I don't know who it is, but somebody's doing it. Because somebody mad, somebody jealous, somebody don't not getting the success like you do. I don't know. I don't know if Newman's doing it. I don't think they are. I don't think I mean maybe Lusher. Who knows? Somebody snitching right now, dude. And that's not good at all. It's interesting to go. It's gonna be interesting to see about the other team that's being rumored, but also you look at these other programs, and you have to look at it. What's gonna be interesting? The other situation right now. You look at the Jefferson Parish schools that are shut down. Grace King, Helen Cox. They're all going to other schools. A good bit of the Helen Cox students are going to John Ehret. Good bit of the Grace Kings are going to between East Jeff and Bonneville. It's unbelievable, and it's going to be interesting how the LHSA is going to play that out. You gotta let them play if they come there, regardless of the area. You gotta let them play. They're displaced, so that's going to be interesting in itself. But like I said, it's I think something's not right with this because it's an urban school at McMain, but on top of that, somebody out there snitching.
I think what George says is somewhat true, but sometimes even these predominantly black schools, they don't learn from the first mistake they made.
That's true.
I mean,
That's
let's
absolutely
let's
true.
let's talk about Carver, not this past season, but past seasons. All the fights they would have on probation from fighting, they still would fight, and then the LHSAA have to step in and okay, no playoffs for y'all. So I think there's truth to what we all are saying.
Can I make the correction right quick on call?
Can you make a what? Correction?
A correction right
You
quick.
can make your correction if it's right.
No. It is right.
I'm listening.
It is right. When they got in them fights, Carver still played in the playoffs, but they had to play all their playoff games on the road because they had a high seed. They had to play all their playoff games on the road, and they wound up making the top 28.
Okay. I remember that.
That was
I
their
remember that.
that was
I
their
remember
punishment.
That's right. That's right. They did let them, but they were on probation still so many times, though. That's the crazy part.
That's true.
That was the crazy part. So Eunice got in a fight basketball with Lagrange, and they put the hammer on Lagrange quick. Like no playoffs for Lagrange basketball boys. And then they went and watched the tape, and they reversed the decision and said no playoffs for Eunice. Lagrange is back in. So, like I said, I think there's truth to what all of us are saying. It's just sometimes they're all repeat offenders that don't learn from the first time.
And give a lot of credit to Coach Nate Roche.
Oh, without a doubt.
He learned at the time, and he felt so bad at the time when all that happened.
Yeah.
And I think it was the one you were right. The year before then, that was against Kennedy, and they both didn't make the playoffs. The year after, it continued.
Wait,
but
Kennedy made it as number 32, but they didn't have the backing from the principal.
Yeah. So right. So they both didn't make the playoffs. The next year, Carver had the same trouble with fights, but they had a high seed in the playoffs. They couldn't kick up. They didn't kick them out, but their punishment was you will have to, because I think it was a 4 seed or a 6 seed, but they told them you will have to play all your playoff games on the road.
But that's a safety issue too, because all the fights are happening at Carver. That's a safety issue.
A safety issue.
Yeah.
But then there was a lot of then the year that they got back, when they lost to McMahon, that was a lot of animosity. They didn't do any fights. Everything was clean. It was just a lot of unfortunate things happened during that time.
Yeah.
But credit Nate, man. I mean, for him to learn and for his team to Carver now more than anything else, they are much, much better as people, as a team, and they felt like, the mannerisms, all that, they still gonna be who they are.
Correct.
But they taught them self-control.
When I went to the top 28,
right,
and I had my Shaw gear on, and I'm walking in there, a lot of Carver fans right there. They're like, "Let's go, Shaw! Us and y'all, let's do this. New Orleans, we gotta do it." Showing love.
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be, especially with teams from New Orleans and all that stuff. People got to understand and look at the bigger picture. Like I mentioned about, and I don't know if I might have talked about this before, about the story between, when Frank Wilson, I don't know, George might have heard about this. You might have, the year when O'Perry Walker got to the state championship game.
Yeah.
And it was the semifinals against St. Martinsville.
Yeah.
Frank Wilson was the head coach. So I come in there with my St. Aug jacket to Berman, and the O'Perry Walker people was looking at me crazy. But then I had to explain myself and say, wait a minute. Your head coach is from our alma mater. This is our people. We support our people. You better respect that. And somebody say, wait a minute, wait. He did go to St. Aug. Oh, my bad. Sorry, dog. Sorry. My bad. Appreciate it. Like, it's about respect. And that the city should be all about. None but love. You could be enemies on and off the court, but when it comes down to it, you know what I'm saying? It's about loyalties. Just like the year Carr and Landry Walker won state in football.
Yeah.
The family factor, the loyalty factor about the city, rivals putting stuff aside. And then one year you had in the top 28 when Landry Walker won their first state championship. When Riverside made that run, won that championship game, and then when they came off the court, they seen the Landry Walker players and they dapped them off and they said, "Go get it, go win it, y'all next, go get this," and that's what it's all about. But at the time, like you said, you're right. Repeat offenders is gonna have to learn, but you sometimes it's good when you see that they learn from it. But when they repeat, the hammer's gonna come down.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna come down. So I don't know, but
Mhm.
I don't remember. It's amazing that McMahon is not known to get in that kind of trouble. That's the shocking part. They're not known. They the school been kind of up and down, but always been good academically. Always. But to hear this and knowing the athletic program has made strides over the last 15 years with the football program and the basketball program and the track program, for them to just go through some tragic like this, it's sad in itself. And I feel bad for everybody involved, including the McMahon alumni, because so many McMahon alumni was so up in arms when they shocked Carver a couple years ago to bring the school's first state championship.
Let's get George back in here. George, last word on this topic before we close the show.
Exactly. The tragedy is with the players, with the athletes. It's not with the administrators. It's not with the coaches or the teachers or whoever was involved in this. We don't know the magnitude of the scope, but I guarantee you one thing: what's about to happen. Brandon Walters is the new coach, is the new athletic administrator at McMain, right?
Yes.
Athletic
Where did
director.
he previous
Athletic
what
director and head coach
previous
football.
athletic director and head coach? Where did he previously coach? West St. John. He left there and I don't remember the reasons he gave, but do you think the LHSAA is going to be a little petty and say, wait a minute, let's go see what he did at West St. John? You know, I mean, it happened. I don't think they will
No.
because it's been a minute since he's left.
But
With VK McMahon,
I'm sorry, but I just want to say this.
you're good. You're good.
All of this happening was not on his watch. He just got
At
hired
No,
all.
it
in
wasn't.
February. He just got hired. So this is not on his watch.
Well, so you punish the school for something previous administrators did.
Yes.
Noted. Noted. Notice the hypocrisy or the fallacy. I'm not saying McMahon should got off scot free. Violations are committed, and it sucks for this regime to basically walk into a New Orleans pothole. And if you've ever driven in New Orleans, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I mean, you don't. How many of have hit that said pothole? But that being said, this is going to set McMahon back a decade. I think it will be a decade because, again, no football, no soccer. Other athletic programs are going to play, but at what expense? At what reward? None.
Right.
I mean, you could win district and dominate, and it stinks for the basketball program because, again, you mentioned they won the title a few years back, got to a semifinal. I think was it a semifinal this year?
They got to the I believe to the quarters this year,
Quarterfinal,
but they
and
but
lost to Carver, I believe.
but they went but McMahon went to back state championship games. They won one,
Hmm.
lost one,
And
and
lost
then
one.
they got to the
Right.
highest classification, and they get to at least to the quarters.
Competed.
Mhm.
My point. Making my point. They competed at the highest level. Look, the question I asked and the reason I asked it, it's not to stir pots. I'm not Skip Bayless. I don't do that. All right. It's to open eyes. Don't turn a blind eye to something that's, I'm not going to say systemic. I don't want to say that. I hate to use this card. I hate to use it. It's revolting for me to use that. But sometimes, Jared, you have to open that book,
Yeah.
the Pandora's box,
I agree.
because people are afraid to.
Mm-hmm.
Caucasians, I promise you, they're afraid to. But I'll flash you back to one story years ago. Again, I lived in Central Louisiana for 12 years. Um, Calvary Baptist, when they recruited Shea Patterson. Y'all know the backstory of that recruitment? How much illegalities were committed?
Mhm.
A lot.
Yeah.
His family was from Texas.
Yep.
And they used a rent house, a P.O. box, and that turned out to be a P.O. box in Shreveport for him to go to Calvary Baptist. This is not my opinion. Look it up. It's facts.
Facts.
Guess what Calvary Baptist got? Not a damn thing. Nothing. Nothing. And I dare anybody to say I'm lying. Anybody listening,
And
telling you
it's
this
the
is what.
God honest truth. You can say the same thing about
It's
West Monroe.
Well, no. Wait, hold on. Let me hold on about West Monroe because I'm gonna say this. Look, I remember going to the '97 championship game in the Dome against Shaw, and that's before my brother's freshman year at Shaw. I heard so many disgusting, revolting words against Shaw. You know, sexual innuendos brought up, talking because Shaw's an all
Our
boys
boy.
school.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, and look, I'm not gonna obviously not gonna repeat it. No, that's beneath me, and that's beneath any of us. We're not that. But to hear that nonsense, and then West Monroe having the success they did, again, they played in the same district as Alexandria, 2-5A.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I heard so many stories about how they held kids back. I think they were 8-12 school. If I remember right, I think they're 8-12. West Monroe, I'm not sure, but they were holding kids back. Their freshmen, they were holding their freshmen back intentionally, and that's illegal. But it was never reported. Nobody had the stones to report it. That's why they never got in trouble. Look, we can make those presumptions and whatnot, but this is stuff that I know happened because again, I live near adjacent to that area, considering they played in the same district and they frequented areas near me. Um, but it was never proven because nobody opened their mouth. But yet we could snitch on McMahon, and boom, here comes the boom is the most accurate 4 words you can use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sucks for the
You're
players,
absolutely
for the
right,
football
George.
team,
Eight through
you
12 for
know.
West Monroe.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought so. I just wasn't 100% sure, and I don't want to sound off and all that, but to me, as a sports commentator, as someone who loves athletics, especially high school, because watching the purity of high school athletics is fun. It is therapeutic for those of us that deal with real life things, that deal with a lot of things in real life. But you mentioned hype and New Orleans. We can just to expound on the Carr Landry Walker thing. That's some of the greatest hype video I've ever seen. When Carr's coming off the field and Landry Walker's ready to come on, and all you saw was "Go get it, go get it, go get it." And little poetic justice that Landry Walker hung 50 on West Monroe that night. Look, I am as objective as anybody, but seeing West Monroe get their brains beat in, I really wasn't upset. I promise you, ask about 90% of the New Orleans media if they agree with me. I guarantee you they will.
I'm like I'm
Guarantee.
like this. To me, one of the and I've done a lot of stories and all that over the years. Probably one of the greatest prep stories and coverage I've ever done because of the fact of the matter is of that particular night. And I still ain't forget when I did the VK Jones show that week. I called out the city of Algiers. I said, if Marrero can shut it down for John Eric, can you shut it down for Carr and Landry Walker? Because Monroe's coming.
Yeah, it
Monroe
was
is
West
coming.
Monroe and Neville.
And they did. West Monroe and Neville. I'm talking
Yeah.
about Monroe, period. They're coming. I made a hype video with the Algiers versus Monroe. And guess what? Algiers shut everything down. They had, and I hate to say it, George, it was a lot more people for Algiers than the John Eric fans from
Oh, without a
Marrero. I'm
doubt.
gonna be
Yeah.
honest.
Right.
It
I was
was
expecting more
crazy
with John Eric.
because of the fact because of the fact that Carr, we knew the Carr people were gonna be there, but you had people that had the Landry Walker colors, Old Perry Walker colors, and LB Landry that night. That whole side was just Algiers down. And I was just so proud of that night in that moment. And when Landry Walker scored that 50, I talked, and at the time, John Johnson, who's offensive coordinator at Carr, he was the offensive coordinator at Landry Walker. I asked him, I said, man, you had to kind of had to do that there? I'm like, wow. He's like, hey, West Monroe probably would have did the
And
same
West
to
Monroe
us,
had put something in the papers
which he
also.
was right.
They said something about them in the papers.
Mhm. Yeah, they say some in the papers, and then on top of that, the fans were still talking smack to him during the game. So with that being said, because and then you got to think West Monroe and John when John told me that, he was right, because you have to, because it made me go back to what West Monroe did to Rummel
Yeah.
in the dome, and I was like, yeah, they would have done the same thing. So it was a crazy night in itself.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end this show. We're gonna end this show. Want to thank Coach Paul Manieri for joining us again. And if LSU get to the championship game, we got to bring him back.
Well, yeah, if they do, we got to bring him back. We got a college baseball expert that I met last weekend at the regional. He covers a lot of college baseball all over the country. He's going to come on our show on next Wednesday to talk a little bit about the preview the college
the same day with
series.
The Hankton brothers.
So,
okay.
Yes, we're gonna have him, and we're gonna have the Hankton brothers on next Wednesday. We'll let you know if we have another show as well, because
we are.
Okay. What's the
trying
surprise?
to get the days correct with this person. It's gonna be Cam Johnson. It's funny. It was funny when you said his name, and I was like, wow, we're gonna have Cam Johnson on the show next week. So either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, I'll let you know. Cam Johnson will be on the show with us.
Awesome. And also I will work to try, and this is another suggestion that we're gonna try and do maybe as well. I'm gonna see what the schedule is. I want to try to have a Troy University night. And the reason why I'm saying that, Brock Hayes, an assistant coach, I want him to come and join us to talk about his career, and also a female that's joined the Troy University women's basketball staff, who's done great, tremendous things in the junior college level, who turned around a program in Clarksdale, Mississippi, at Cahomo Community College, Stephanie Murphy. I told her about the show, and she would love to come on. So I want to try to see if we can have a Troy University night featuring two very good coaches. And with Stephanie Murphy's story, it's amazing in itself, and it has to be told on.
It has to be told on this show.
I'm gonna be honest. You have to think about it. You have
yes.
It's gotta be. You have to think about it, because of the fact of the matter is, for her turning around a program like that has not seen winning at that school since the 80s, for her to take that school to the regional championships in the NJCAA, for her to turn around a program like that is amazing. And I think Cahomo Community College is missing her right now.
I'll tell you this.
I wish them the best in their future, but we definitely want to have
Let's try Brock Hayes and what's the name again?
Stephanie Murphy.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
All right. For Canin Jefferson, for Coach Paul Manieri, my co-host VK Jones, and of course my main man George Peppers, I'm JB, your sports guy. We're coming back next week. 2 shows. Till then, y'all take care.